This is where true intimacy begins. Listen, know, and love the body. My name is Tara Galliano. This is Rediscovering My Body. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this video and you want more, subscribe to the Rediscovering My Body YouTube channel. My name is Tara Galliano, and I'm a sexual empowerment coach. And if you've been watching my videos for some time now, you know that there are 3 foundational pillars to rediscovering my body. And the first one is body wisdom, the second one is desire, and the third one is pleasure. And so today I'm going to be speaking about the second one, which is desire. And so I'm going to share with you a story of a client that I worked with who is actually an amalgamation of many clients that I've worked with over the decades that I have been a clinician and sexual empowerment coach. And this client, who I will name Natasha, was in her late 40s, and she'd always done everything that she should do. And she lived in a lot of shoulds. And what she knew was that she should go to college and get married and have a couple of kids and take care of her parents when they were ill. And dutifully, she did all of these things. And at some point, she recognized that there were times in her life that she did these things and overrode her own innate wisdom in her body. And so she knew that when she married her former husband, that there was no reason for her to do that because it made her kind of nauseous and sick to her stomach. And she ascribed that to nervousness, but she felt that throughout the engagement and even more violently on the day they were married. And if she dropped into her body, she could imagine that she really didn't want to marry her former husband, but she did anyway. Can you relate to that? Yeah, I know a lot of women who can relate to that, and they do what they're supposed to anyway. And so fast forward multiple decades later, and she got a divorce. And she felt like that was a really good thing because she knew in the beginning she wasn't meant to marry her husband, former husband. And then she knew at the end that it still was true and that it wasn't working out and things hadn't really changed for her, except that she needed to honor what it was that was true for her. However, this was the anomaly in her life. It was the one thing that she'd not continued with that didn't serve her, right? It really didn't serve her, and she honored that. So this was the one thing that she was willing to let go of because it really didn't serve her, no longer served her, and she could no longer live like that. However, she had this lifetime of always doing what was expected of her. And she didn't know her own truth. She didn't know her own desire. And now that she was able to choose whatever she wanted to do, that she was absolutely free, her children were grown, her parents had passed, she was no longer beholden to her former husband. And to be honest, it kind of scared her a lot. She had no idea what it was that she was going to do. She had thoughts of being in a new relationship, being with a new lover, having more friends, traveling. And those all sounded great. And so we began to work on that, how to bring those things into fruition. And I invited her to keep it simple because she'd never really done what she wanted to do. So learning that habit of knowing her desire and being with it and manifesting it was a huge lesson. And so keeping it to 3 simple goals was really manageable. So the first one was a romantic relationship. The second one was more relationships with friends, or better relationships with friends, quality relationship with friends. And the third one was travel. So those were the 3 that she was focusing in on. And so I invited her to write those down. And the next thing I invited her to do was to write down 3 things that she was ready to let go of. And it happened to be that Natasha was ready to let go of some excess weight. She was ready to let go of her negative self-esteem, or her low self-esteem. And she was also really ready to let go of this belief that she couldn't have what she desired. And so you could see some of them were ideas, some of them were beliefs, and some of them were physical characteristics. But it was this release that she was no longer wanting those to be in her field, to be in her life, to be part of how she lived her life. And then I invited her to feel into what that would feel like to have the first 3, the lover, the better relationships with her friends, and the travel. And to follow through with each one individually so she could feel it so clearly within her body. And then we proceeded to go through the 3 that she was releasing and imagining a life without those. And how hard that was to imagine that life, particularly around the expectations that she had lived within. To really let that go was huge. And what a release it made for her. And with the release of those 3 things, the excess weight, the low self-esteem, and the expectations that she'd placed before her own desires, she began to shift. Not just who she was, but really she began to shift on a day-to-day level of how she was showing up to take care of herself. She became a bit more outgoing, and she became a bit more engaged with others, and she started to feel like she had something of value to say to people in conversations. And she could slowly grow and believe that she could have what it was that she desired. And the friendships came sooner than the romantic relationship, and the travels came sooner than the romantic relationship. But eventually she was able to find a person that she fell in love with. And Natasha was really happy that she had those experiences. So what can we surmise about the story that I shared with you today? Well, there are ways for you to begin to identify what it is that you desire, know it, and manifest it. And if you're interested in more ways to learn your desire, I invite you to join me for my upcoming Desire webinar at the end of this month. And there's multiple times, and I look forward to seeing you at one of them, because I really do believe that you deserve to have all that you desire. Much love.